Greetings, my Israelite brothers and sisters, heirs, joint heirs, adopted, grafted. I'm just making sure that my camera lens is good and clear. Seems to be. Video finds you all well um, and doing well. That's what I hope. I'd just like to say greetings. I titled this video Trust and Faith. Trust and Faith. Two things that I wanted to talk about, trust and faith. Um, Faith and trust. Miss B, how you doing? I got your message about the wilderness, and I will put that on the agenda for a lesson to do in the future. So faith and trust and faith. They are two words that work hand in hand. This past Sabbath's message that I brought was dealing with trust and faith, and we talked about Naaman, how he had to trust the prophet Nathan, and we talked about the three Hebrew boys as well as Daniel. And it was my daughter that read the scripture about the woman with the little boy. And I wanted her to read that story to train her as a child that how a mother had faith, although it was going to be the last meal, how the mother had faith in what the prophet said. But it wasn't so much the faith in the prophet, it was who sent the prophet. And that's important to know. So let's talk about these two words, because a lot of times I do a lot of teaching on doctrine and specific subjects that deals with what Romish Christianity has tainted. The message this past Sabbath was a little bit more personal, inspirational. It was without conflict, I would say. But I still kept to my same message by teaching line upon line, precept upon precept. I thought that was important to do. That's just my style of teaching today. Let me fix this. I'm wiping my camera off. Okay. So that's just my style of teaching today. I like giving a lot of scriptures to support any fact, because the scripture says, let every fact be established by two or three witnesses. So I use about 4 different stories to support the fact that trust and faith and how they work. Why am I talking about that today? Because we're going through life, and life is circumstantial. It's circumstantial with storms. It's circumstantial because of storms that happen. And when I mean by storms, I'm talking about life storms, whether it's financial issues, health issues, marital issues, troubles on our job, family, whatever the case may be. Those what I call the storms of life. We can overcome these things by prayer and having faith and confidence that the Most High will change the storm. And you have to really believe that. You really have to trust that. You have to operate and maneuver as if you trust the Almighty. The woman who had the son, and they were going to make their last cake and die, she moved with obedience, with confidence being in trust and faith. Go ahead and bake the cakes, bring me mine, and there's going to be plenty. She operated with confidence that that was going to happen. Okay. Um, Naaman, on the other hand, was an individual that, as we brought out in the lesson, that he was told to do something strange and unique, and that was to dip 7 times in all of the most dirtiest water in the region. And he was upset because he wanted the prophet, or he thought the prophet would have done something more glandor, like striking his hand. Christian churches and the Christian Pentecostal churches, we like when, we feel like that the healing comes better when we get slapped on the head. If we don't get slapped on the head, then we think healing did not take place. It cannot be just a simple prayer, but this is an amateur, or this is a novice way of thinking, okay? Because we have in the scriptures where a man had a little girl and he wanted the Messiah to come and heal his daughter. And he told the Messiah, you don't have to come, just simply speak the word. Just speak it. And I believe it. Now that's faith, that's confidence. But you find that unless the Hammond organ is going and the music is going and there's the drum roll and the oil pour down on your head, and there's got to be some sort of act. And unless that's done, the person does not feel healed. Now you've already blocked what potentially could have been your blessing because you're looking for something like Naaman did. And I'm not saying that's what you all do. I'm just speaking in general. What people do. People walk away, and if they're not in a service that is doing that, if they don't have the drums rolling and the Hammond B3 going and the bass guitar, the people up and just the screaming, the hollering, and the oil. If you didn't pour the oil down, man, just let it drip off my head. They can walk away feeling like, wow, I didn't feel the healing. And the pastor can just say, or the elder or the teacher, or whatever you call them, they could just say, listen, if anybody needs prayer, just stand up and come up. We're going to lightly anoint your head, or just anoint your head, and we're going to pray. Okay? Now, at that point in time, the individual must receive that prayer with trust and faith. They must walk away believing that they were healed. Now, let me give you an example. There was a woman that had to be healed by the Messiah, and he simply said, let her be healed according to her faith. According to her faith. Okay? Now that's big, because based upon your faith, you may want to get prayed for. You may say, let me go up for prayer, or let me make a phone call to the ones that I'm learning under, whether they be elders or whatever, and you call and say, listen, I'm going through, I just need you to pray for me. Whether it's through the phone, however it may be, you must walk away that what you have done is within trust and faith. That's important. That's very, very important. And because your healing is going to be predicated on that faith. It's not, your healing And whatever you're asking to be prayed for or people to pray with you about, it's not about how much words or elite words that they use. It's not any of that. It's all about your trust and faith. That's what it's all about. And we ask people to pray with us because, or for us in some cases, because it's always good to have somebody to go through things with, because the strong bears the infirmities of the weak. That's what we do. Okay, when one hurts in the family, we all hurt. When one is rejoicing, we all rejoice. But I want you to think about trust and faith. These are the elements, no matter what fashion, that you are prayed for. Faith and trust, or trust and faith, which whenever you want to put first, they both work hand in hand, is what's going to be required for your healing. You know, I'll just share a testimony with you. You know, I have had something that I've had on the table for a few years. And I don't have to say what it is, but it was something I've had on the table for a few years. And it did not happen when I put it on the table. Did not happen. It did not manifest itself. But yet I had faith and confidence in the Most High. I maintained faith and confidence. And when things don't work out when you want them to, there's a couple of things you can do. And I recommend doing them both simultaneously. Search yourself. See if there's anything in your life that may be hindering you from that prayer request. That's number one. That's the first thing I did, was I looked and said, wow, is there anything that I'm doing or not doing? Because remember, the scripture says that the prayers of the righteous availeth much. The Messiah says, whatever you ask the Father in my name, it should happen. So I start to do like King Solomon, and as well as Daniel, the prophet, when he prayed. They first asked the Almighty for forgiveness. Then they asked the Almighty to forgive their forefathers for the sins that they have committed. That's what they did. You remember when Daniel had a dream and he wanted the interpretation of the dream. And if you read Daniel's prayer, he started to ask for forgiveness for his forefathers, anything that he's done. And then he went to ask the Almighty and what he was seeking. And the Almighty sent somebody. It took a few weeks, but he sent somebody. In one of the dreams, it took a few weeks. If you read when Gabriel says, I would have came earlier, but I ran into some trouble and I had to call on Michael to help me. So he searched himself, and then he asked the Almighty. So that's the first thing that I recommend you do. The second thing that I recommend that you do is that wait on the Lord. Just simply wait. Wait on the Lord. Just simply wait. He may not come when you want him to. Maybe he sees something that you don't see. Maybe there's a bigger blessing down the road. So, for instance, you asking the Almighty to bless you with the car, bless you with the car. You're saying, oh, you're saying, I don't want a new car. I want a nice, good used car. So you see a used car and you go there and you want it and you look at it and things don't work out, right? Things don't work out. And then you say, oh, wow, man, that car was a 2012 and it had low miles on it. I wish I could have gotten that car, and it didn't work out. And then, you're still looking, and you may be outside in the rain, walking, getting caught on the bus stop. But then all of a sudden you see another car. It don't happen. For whatever reason, it don't happen. So you automatically should say, wow, is it Almighty? Let me just ask, is there anything that more? And number two, just simply maintain faith and trust. And just simply say, you know what? That's not for me. That's not what the Almighty wanted. He there's something better. There's something better. Then all of a sudden, 8 months later, all of a sudden, you're sitting there at the right place at the right time, and somebody says, hey, I'm moving, and I don't want to take this car. I just bought it like 3 years ago. It's still under warranty, and I paid for it. It's paid for. Anybody that needs a car, and all of a sudden you just get that phone call, and you go there and you say, wow, I was looking at a 2012, but here's a car that's 3 years old. And it's perfect. It's got low miles on it. So who knows what the Almighty's doing, when he's doing it. You just have to say, I wait. So I waited. I waited on the Almighty, and I got blessed tremendously. After 2 years, just saying, okay, well, it's not what the Almighty wants. Wow, okay, wow. Thank you. Maybe I didn't see something. Maybe there's something there I didn't see. Wow, okay. And you have to operate that way. You have to operate and trust and have faith as if he is in charge. He's in charge. He sees, he knows, he's in charge over you. And you really have to pray with that type of confidence, whether you're looking for a spouse, a new job, a raise, a position on the job. Who knows? Who knows what it might be? But whatever it is, when it doesn't come, maintain your posture. Maintain your trust and confidence and your faith in the Most High. That's what you have to do. And you know what? There's a third thing that you may want to do also. Ask yourself, am I right with my fellow brothers and sisters? Am I right? Do I need to go and sit down with somebody maybe I'm not talking to, or maybe they're not talking to me? Ask yourself. You really have to ask yourself and get that stuff straight. He said in the word, before you bring your alms, which is your offering, go get right with your brother. Go get right with your sister. Before you start to say, oh, I got this big offering I'm going to drop off. Before you drop off that big offering, go get things right with other people. Then come back and bring your alms. I'll leave that with you today because I wanted to just give you some personal encouragement that whatever you're praying for, it may not come right now, but maintain your trust and maintain your faith. And this is what the scripture says, in all things, give him thanks. In all things. And just maintain your stability. Be steadfast and unmovable, always abounding in the word of truth. 2 years. 2 years. I had this thing on the table. 2 years. And the Almighty was faithful. And I tell you, I'm just tickled pink as what he has done. I look at what I wanted, what I prayed for at that time, and just by simply waiting, the blessing that is immensible. I can't even just, I'm like, wow, wow, wow. I'm so glad I didn't murmur. I'm so glad I didn't complain. I'm so glad I didn't lose faith and trust in who the Almighty is. So I want to leave that with you today. Thank you for tuning in. We'll talk soon.